I'm gonna tell you, you can go to sleep, it's not gonna hurt my feelings, I do it routinely from the pulpit. But just a quick story, I don't preach every Sunday, but I did this past Sunday at my home church. And I kid you not, I read 5 verses from the book of Acts, which if you're a Bible person, you know those are short verses, those aren't. By the time I finished my passage of scripture and hadn't begun preaching yet, somebody was asleep on the second row. So, people tell me I have that kind of voice, but I'm gonna try to make this as enjoyable as possible. I mean, this isn't an easy topic to deal with, but you all are already doing the work, you're hospice volunteers, and you know that joy and sadness coexist in the work that we do. And so we're just going to talk about how to stay emotionally healthy and grounded while you do this work. Because I want to tell you, first and foremost, I am your biggest fans. I promise you. I am in awe of the time and energy that you give to our patients. And I have a very limited amount of time in my 40, 50-hour work week where I can be present. And it gives me so much peace and so much joy when I say, I've got a volunteer to send to you. So let's just start off, give yourself a pat on the back. You all are doing the good work and you are so appreciated. And you probably don't hear it enough, but I'm just here to tell you again, on behalf of the staff, on behalf of the HCK community, we appreciate you. So before we get started this afternoon, we're just gonna take a minute and check in with our bodies. So if you wanna close your eyes for a minute. Just let your muscles relax and get really comfortable. Take a couple of deep breaths in and out. In and out. And just sit. As you open your eyes, I invite you to think about when I say you're a volunteer for hospice, what are you feeling? What kinds of things do you think of? And you yell them out to me. You volunteer with hospice, what's that like for you in your heart?
Joy, gratitude.
Gratitude, good.
Blessed.
Blessed, yeah. What else?
Honor.
Honor, of course. How about hard? Sometimes it is hard. Sometimes it is really sad. Right? There are visits that I go in and I'm filled with joy and peace and comfort. And then there are visits that I walk out the door and I feel like, did I do anything good in there? Whatever those emotional reactions are, they're normal, they're okay. One of the things I learned early on, I went back into school later in life and went into ministry. And you may or may not know this about chaplains, but after 3 years of divinity school, then we do an entire year in residency. It's called clinical pastoral education. Well, in my denomination, you only need to do 1 unit of CPE. And I went naively off into the hospital world thinking I had all the answers and knew what I was doing. In that time, in my first unit of CPE, I fell in love with working with people and people at end of life. The cohort I was in over the summer when we were on call, each of my classmates had 1 or 2 deaths that they attended. The summer that I did my first unit of CPE, I had 13 deaths that I attended. My colleagues fondly began to call me the angel of death. And in that process, it's a really good place to start the learning because I was constantly surrounded with other people doing the same work. I was surrounded with a supervisor who also is a marriage and family therapist. And so I got supported in this journey in a way that you all didn't get. you came in and you probably thought you knew what this was gonna be like, or you knew what to expect, and how many of you actually knew when you started what you'd actually be doing? No idea, right? So one thing that I learned in that first unit of CPE is this is hard work. It's exhausting work. You're gonna be in families that have a lot of dynamics. Some of them good, some of them not so good. You have your own family with dynamics. Some of it good, some of it not so good. It's stressful, and it makes all of us every single day realize this: we're gonna die someday. And that's hard, right? Because of the work that you do, you don't get to walk out here and pretend like bad things never happen. Because we all see those bad things happen. But the flip side of that is, you also get the hope of knowing that what we do every day matters. So all of these feelings, sadness, hopefulness, helplessness, tenderness, emotional fatigue and exhaustion, unexpected joy and gratitude, these are all normal emotions. We get in our own head sometimes and grade our emotional reaction. So I wonder if anybody has experienced this. You go into a visit with a family, maybe not in the best mood in the world, and they cheer you up. And then what do you do? What do I do when I go to the car? I grade myself, man, that was awful because I let them cheer me up. Right? But all of these things, whatever the emotional response is, it's okay. When you start having problems in this line of work and you burn out, is when you stop feeling the emotions. Or you have a hard one, and instead of reaching out to Annette or to me or another volunteer, you stuff it down deep inside and you pretend like it didn't happen. There's only so many emotions that you can push down inside before they have to come back out. So first step of taking care of yourself is just noticing those emotions, naming those emotions, and whatever it is that you're feeling, saying to yourself, this is a normal reaction, right? It doesn't matter if Stephen does it different than me. It doesn't matter if Debbie has a different approach or feels a different way. Whatever you named, whatever you're feeling, that's an emotional, normal reaction to death and dying. Nothing on these lists of emotions, the good, the bad, and the ugly, disqualifies you from being a good hospice volunteer. In fact, all of those feelings are your qualifications for being a good hospice volunteer. So one of the things that I'd like to start with is, what do you do in a visit, right? So we're talking about emotionally, and we're talking about those boundaries, right? What do you do to prepare yourself for a visit? What do you do when you're in a visit, and what do you do after a visit? So is anybody brave enough to tell me how you think, how you feel, or what you do to start a visit? We've all got tips and tricks.
I mean, I just kind of pray going in there, because I don't know what you're going to experience there. Sometimes it's confusion, sometimes it's sadness, sometimes it's joy, but you don't know. So I just pray, whatever is going to happen here, that what I'm trying to do is, whether it's received or not, is, me giving it just let me give my best. And that's all I say. If I can go in there and give my best, and it's received or it's not received, then, that's all I can do. And sometimes, visits kind of happen there, sometimes I'll be in there and in 3 minutes seems like 3 minutes is enough right now for these people. And then sometimes it's like, okay, I feel warmed and invited, and it turns into 2 hours sometimes,
So you hit on a great thing. So whether you're a person of faith and it's prayer or it's some other ritual, having a ritual for yourself that marks the beginning of this interaction is very helpful. So you gotta remember when you walk in that door, when I walk in the door, I'm not Val Goins, right? I'm walking in as a representative of an organization with a job to do. I'm also walking in with the added pressure, I'm clergy and people know that. So when I walk into a visit, when I'm in the car, sometimes I even name it for myself. When I put this lanyard on, I'm Chaplain Val. And that's who I need to be, and that's when I start. Okay, Valerie Goins is still at home. Chaplain Val is showing up. Chaplain Val knows that I need to be able to go in and give my best, but when I finish, I also need to be able to go home and give my best to my family. I go in and give my best to a patient, but then for me, I've got 3 or 4 more visits to do in the same day. So it starts at the very beginning of the visit, some kind of awareness that you're leaving who you are in real life behind, and you are volunteer Stephen, right? And that's really important because regular Val Goins, she really doesn't know what to do with all of the death and dying. Chaplain Val, I can rely on my training, and I step in there with wisdom and authority. I also take a minute before I start the visit and just go, what am I feeling right now? So many of our visits are gonna be with 95-year-old church ladies who are ready to go meet the Lord, and they have great relationships with their families, and they've got a wonderful support system, right? Those are pretty easy to do. But what do we do when we have a 48-year-old who's dying, who's living with a family member or a parent? There are lots of complex organizational things going on. So even before you walk into that visit and you meet them and you look at your assignment, you show up differently for the 95-year-old and the 48-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really good as we walk into those visits to go, okay, before I start, how am I feeling? I usually feel a little nervous and excited when I meet somebody for the first time. Sometimes based on the report from the admitting nurse, I might feel anxious and worried about how it's gonna go. But I stop and say, okay, I'm walking in anxious, so if anxiety's in the visit, I need to realize I started anxious and maybe I'm part of the problem, right? Doesn't mean you judge yourself. You just say, okay, maybe the anxiety I'm feeling is more about me than them. Let's say we do the same process and you get out of the car, man, I feel good today. The sun's out, I'm relaxed, I'm in a really good place. You walk into the home and you have the same presenting anxiety. You've taken a moment to say, what am I carrying in? And what am I experiencing here? And so that ritual to start the visit is really important. So just name it, whatever you're feeling. I'm feeling overwhelmed today. Man, I can't believe Annette sent me this one. Oh, I'm really excited. I wish she'd send me 12 more. Just name it, and then get out of your car. Do something that makes you feel present. For me, I'm a person who's very embodied. I want to crunch my shoes on the gravel. I want to take a deep breath. And this marks your transition from ordinary life to superhero volunteer. So we walk in, and you can say, I say a lot. I talk to myself a lot. And that's not going to tell everybody in the office, but I do. And I'll say, Valerie, you are great, and this is going to be a good visit. And so walk in by first settling yourself, right? Settle your emotions down, and then just be present. Also, as you walk in, one of the things that helps me a lot is this. I can't fix it, but I can be present. I can't fix it, but I can be present. By the time our folks have signed up with hospice, they've tried to be fixed by everybody, every specialist in the world. And the first thing we gotta realize is we're not there to fix their problems, we're just there to sit with it. When they're family dynamics, right? As you walk in and husband saying be on my side, wife saying be on my side, I can be present, but I can't fix it. And really, that's all people need. Any of y'all go to therapy? I go to therapy a lot. For those of us that go to therapy, here's the secret. You pay your co-payment, however much you pay, and then you sit there and who does most of the talking? And who comes up with the solutions to their problems? And the therapist sits there and says, okay, say more. What our families need is not wisdom, right? They don't need us to fix anything. Sometimes all you need is to be present. So I'm gonna do a little, yes.
Just something that comes to my mind when you, before the visit starts, there are chances to be judgmental.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's hard not to. You can pull up to a place and say, holy smokes, how does somebody live there? I've done that, and I'll just drive away and sit for a while and say, okay, it looks like it does on the outside, but inside, probably the most wonderful thing's gonna happen to me that day. So just to go remind myself that no matter what it looks like from the get-go, it's probably different than what it looks like.
Yeah, and sometimes it is as bad as it looks like.
Oh, well,
But
yeah.
what I encourage you to think about is you don't have to fix it, right? There's no place like home for our patients, even if the home is nothing like I'd want to live in. And then the final thing, underline this in your brain several times. You don't have to beat yourself up for having that reaction. You don't have to beat yourself up for that. My colleagues and I talk about this all the time, and there are certain places. I primarily work in North Hardin, Meade, and Breckenridge counties. And there are certain places in Meade County that I routinely drive, either picking my kids up from school or doing my rounds. And I drive by those houses routinely and think, please, Jesus, don't call me to this house. But what you need to do is realize that reaction is normal. You don't have to judge yourself. You don't have to feel bad about it. You notice it, name it, and say, well, if I get called to that house, I'm going to figure out what to do. So I love that observation. So here's the other part of starting a visit. We all, I assume most of us, you kind of rehearse in your head, and you've got the spiel. Hi, I'm Val, I'm from hospice. Da, 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 da. So then what do you do in those visits where you're met with a brick wall? So we're gonna do a little fun thing that really isn't going to be fun. But I'm gonna ask you to find a partner. You need to go ahead and start finding your partner, okay?
Somebody can partner with us.
And if we need to have 3 to a group, you
Yeah,
can
you
do
can
that.
with us.
Jump back here, and if we were on.
Absolutely.
I want you to look at each other, okay? And I'm gonna set a timer, and for 2 minutes, you're not gonna talk. Okay? Take a deep breath, it's gonna be okay. Look at each other in your eyes. Go. 30 seconds in.
What?
A minute to go. Thirty seconds left. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's hard to do, isn't it?
Do it every day in middle school substitute.
Because I'm like, okay, he's got it down. You got it down.
It's uncomfortable, isn't it? But I wish Carly was still here because she could check vitals. I don't think anybody died during that exercise. No? How many people were a little uncomfortable? How many were a whole lot uncomfortable?
What about you?
Again, what?
How many thought it was funny?
Yeah. How many thought it was funny? So here's the other thing. When we walk into a visit, you have to realize that everybody processes things differently. And those quiet visits can be very, very uncomfortable. And what did everybody want to do? You wanted to say something. And some of you, I heard you. You wanted to say something. And you held yourself back. For some of our families, you come in and they want to talk. And for some of our families, the greatest gift you can do is just sit there and be quiet and wait. And here's the other thing I want you to take away from today. No one has ever died from being uncomfortable. Because many of our visits can be a little uncomfortable. To my knowledge, nobody has ever died from being uncomfortable. And every kind of visit is going to unfold in a different way. So sometimes part of it is going in and engaging, and sometimes part of it is just sitting quietly and being present. But we learn as we go. So the reason I had you all sit with that uncomfortability for 2 minutes, many times at the end of life, when we have a patient who's actively dying, that's what they need. What do we walk in and want to do? Give me some more examples. What do you want to do? Dad's here, he's actively dying. He doesn't want to really be bothered. What do I want to do?
Talk.
Let them know. Try to say it's going to be okay, but no, it's not.
Let me fix your blanket. Let me fix your pillow. Or you notice someone at the end of life that's taking the covers on and off and on and off.
Yeah.
Let me fix it.
Yeah.
When you guys are called in at the end of life especially, I'm here to be present, not to fix it. And when you're sitting at that bedside and nobody's talking and you don't know what to say either, we're not going to die from being uncomfortable. And in fact, some of the best interactions I've had with patients and families are the ones where they're largely quiet. So we're in the visit. And we're gonna say this family is not the quiet family. They love you, they wanna adopt you into the family, they wanna give you their pet dog, they wanna name their great grandbaby after you. Boundaries, right? Boundaries aren't about creating distance. Boundaries are about creating safety. So as we go into this visit, we've checked our body, we've checked our emotions, we say, okay, I'm fairly calm. We get inside and we're not met with that 2 minutes of silence. Yes, volunteer, I love you, can you be here every day? Well, technically I'm supposed to be here a couple hours every once in a while. Well, it's just that you are the most special person I've ever met. And I want you every day, and I want you to spend the night, and I want to give you my car, I want you to date my daughter, all of the things. So I'm guessing you all are volunteers. I'm just gonna take a educated guess. Some of you are people pleasers? Can I see hands? Everybody who's not raising their hands, they're secretly people pleasers too.
Recovering.
I love that.
We're drawn to volunteering because we like to help. True story. I used to volunteer for the Louisville Metro Animal Shelter. I did it for many years. I fostered over 100 cats and kittens. There is a fine line between being a good volunteer and being a kitten hoarder. And I found that out the hard way when at one point I had my 4 cats and 15 kittens and a mama cat. And my husband was like, Valerie, if you bring one more animal in this house, it is over. But this is what we do. We're drawn to helping because we like to
Help people.
help. So you walk in the door, maybe you've met them 2 or 3 times, and there's, what is your name? Jessica. We've had We've had other volunteers before. I'm not looking at Gammon, but I'm talking about Gammon, we both know it. And she was okay, but you are the best volunteer ever. Like, if I could call the White House and tell them how good you are, I would. And Jessica got a problem. So, my cat needs to be spayed next Tuesday. And I'm gonna need you to round up all the feral kittens and take them too. Gammon was a bad volunteer, she said no. But I can tell, just like we have this vibe going on. So here's the thing, Jessica. I don't have an adoption plan for the cat and the 14 kittens, so you need to find homes for them, right? But we're not going to tell Annette that we're doing this because Annette will be upset. But I promise you, Fred, it's just because you're so special.
Well, that's really
So really, we'll talk about the cats later. I'll put it in the trunk of your car. So I exaggerate the situation, but has anybody had this happen in volunteering?
Well, I just had a cat trap I'm a dog person. But I didn't do it. I just made the phone call and they thought I was spectacular. So I guess I'm gonna have to confess that
So I exaggerate for effect because I'm a ham and I enjoy an audience. In fact, if you want me to dance now, but this is what we sometimes get drawn into as caregivers and providers. So in my professional life, Chaplain Tommy, you notice Chaplain Tommy isn't here today. But there are situations where you walk into a home and they'll say, oh, you're so wonderful when you pray. I feel the Spirit of God. I know Tommy's supposed to be our chaplain, but he stinks and we love you. I'm a people pleaser. This is like drugs to me. But I need to stop myself there. So if there's a real issue, this family happens to be Presbyterian and they don't feel comfortable with the Baptist. Okay, then that's reasonable. Occasionally we'll have folks that'll say, bless your heart, but we really want a male chaplain. That's okay. But what's the hook here for me when they say, you're so good and Tommy stinks? The hook is probably, I want to feel better about myself, and I'm going to do whatever you ask me to do to keep getting that feeling, that dopamine. And our patients and families, I promise you, they are not trying to be manipulative. They're just doing their best to live through very difficult circumstances. But they will tempt you at every turn. Can you do more for me? Can you do more for me? And then as caring people, and for me as a person of faith, it feels really bad to say no. Anybody else? Right? So what are some reasons we might need to say no?
For your own well-being.
Bingo.
Exactly.
For your own well-being.
Well, I don't wanna get on the next bad side either, I'm gonna tell you that right,
Right. And you, but you raise a point that's important. So when I was saying that Gammon wasn't a good volunteer, might have made Jessica feel good for a moment. But you know what's gonna happen when Jessica does something and says no to the next go round with kittens?
She's gonna.
You're gonna be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Right? So I bring all of this up to say, you just need to check in with yourself and ask yourself, why do I feel this need to do it? And sometimes it's just the need is there and there's nothing wrong with going the extra mile. But sometimes we do those things to fulfill an emptiness in ourselves. So when we have those unrealistic expectations, what do? You can always go to a net, but let's say a net's not available, what do?
Just say no.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably say like, I don't know right now, I'll have to check with the net.
That's another
That's
good
also
one.
good, yeah.
Yeah, she's a
Where
right
it
idea.
goes against our policy to do.
Bingo,
That's a good one.
and as volunteers, this is your big thing. You say, however you want to put it, man, I wish I could help, it's company policy, right? Or you can even blame the staff in a nice way. They're saying, I need you to walk my dog 3 days a week, and you say, Chaplain Val told me that your dog has rabies. So oftentimes we don't say no because we feel like saying no signals, I don't care about you,
Yeah.
right? But when you respond with clarity, right? Don't hem and haw and say, I'll think about it, because you really need to say no. Respond clearly, succinctly, and with warmth. So, Jessica, your turn. You're gonna ask me to do something crazy. Go ahead.
Hi, can you wash my daughter's hair for me and braid it up? I don't have the ability to do that anymore, and her hairdresser is sick, so I can't send her to school like that.
That is a really hard problem. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not an expert at washing or braiding hair. I do have the ability to check with the staff at the office and see if we have any community resources. So instead of me doing it, would it be okay if I asked around to see if somebody might be able to come to your home and help? So I made it clear, I can't do that. But I also tried to be clear, I see your problem. I know it's hard. There are other options. I know, I'm just like.
You're good.
I'm trying to keep y'all awake. So really, when we feel like setting boundaries is unkind, it really is the kindest thing to do. Because at the end of the day, we need you. Hear that again, we need you. And if you are hung up on this patient from 6 months ago, so hung up that you can't take any more assignments, you're not helping them anymore, you're not helping yourself, you're staying stuck, and you're not able to help other people. So boundaries are really a form of kindness for yourself and for our families. And then just try to be consistent with patients. And we all get closer to some people than others, but if you've got a 2-hour window that you're supposed to be there, you know what you need to do at 2 hours? You really need to get your stuff and go. You can go back another time, but you need to take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. Part of sitting with suffering and the work that we all do is just learning how to be there. And this is the hardest skill because it's also the easiest thing to do. Silence is not failure. The inability to fix the patient's situation is not a failure. The inability to come up with a creative solution is not a failure. You know what our patients need the most? They just need somebody to sit with them. And you are uniquely qualified to do that in a way that their family members can't. So when my mother was dying, I couldn't be calm, cool, and collected. I didn't know what to do, even though this is what I do every day. But when I step into somebody else's family, I can be that non-anxious presence for them. So you have these skills and qualifications, and all you need to do is show up. It's not about the quilts that you bring. Our patients love those quilts, but it's not about the quilts. For those of you of faith, it's not really about the prayers you say. I'm sure they're beautiful, but it's not. It's not even about the amount of time that you give the caregiver for a break for an appointment. That's important. But your presence is the most important thing. So why do you think presence is the most important thing?
Not feel alone.
Yes.
Connection.
Connection, right? And you walk in and you already know what a dying person looks like. You know how they breathe. You know some of the smells that are in the home. You also know that someone being uncomfortable, yeah, you let the team know, but it's okay. And you bear witness to that person, the dying person, in a way their family probably can't. And then what happens with your visit is you can also gently teach them. So you sit down at the bedside, and usually people will be calmer for people that they don't know than their own family. So you sit there and the patient starts to calm down. You can even match your breathing to the patient's, in and out, in and out. And then as the family interacts, you have wisdom, you have a lot of knowledge. And they say, well, mom's covers need to be adjusted. And just say, you know, she looks really comfortable right now. Well, I don't think she looks comfortable. Here's the line I use all the time. You know, I've been doing this for a while, and based on what I see on her face, what I see in her body language, or her hands are unclenched, Based on that, my training tells me that she really is comfortable right now. When you go into a family environment that everyone is charged up in, they don't need you to fix it or sort it out. But if you sit there calmly and quietly, you know what begins to happen?
People calm down.
They calm down. They match your energy. So then the choice is, do I want to match their energy or do I want them to match mine? So when you walk into these places, I also challenge you to think about this part of it different. A lot of families will say, I just don't want them to suffer anymore, right? And a lot of what we see is interpreted as suffering, right? Okay. A lot of what we see is the natural process of death. Does it necessarily mean that they're suffering? Does it necessarily mean they're in pain? But we live in a world where, except for people that do the work we do, most people don't know what it looks like. So I want to challenge you, when you think about suffering, that you can also rename it and just say, this is part of the death process. Is it the Holy Spirit?
Holy Spirit.
This morning,
So we've gotten through, we entered the house, we've gotten through some dynamics where we've noticed this person laying in bed, we know that they're in the dying process. We've witnessed all of the dynamics with the family. We've kept ourselves calm, or tried to, or faked it. Faking calm is as good as being calm. We've stayed we said we're gonna be there an hour and 37 minutes. It's an hour and 37 minutes. So what do we do next? And this is also a very big thing as a hospice volunteer. You're gonna see things that most people don't see. You're gonna see illnesses that your friends and family, unless they're medical, don't even know exist. You're gonna smell things, you're gonna hear things, you're gonna feel things. You're gonna witness other people's emotion and their grief. Sometimes that grief can be very quiet, and sometimes that grief can be unbearably loud. When you hear a wife scream or moan for her husband, you've got to go back and live life. So what do? Any suggestions?
like, how do you leave?
Mm-hmm. You stand up and you get in the car. So for me, I told you a little bit about my ritual of entering the day. So lanyard goes on, and I know Steve's kids, I'm not Mama Val anymore. You can call me 27 times, I'm not picking up the phone. Lanyard goes on, and I am a caring professional in death and dying. I am capable and resourceful and responsible. I have good boundaries, or I try to. And I give my heart and soul to my patients and families. I do about 4 or 5 visits every day. When I get home, I've got 4 dogs, 4 cats, a husband, and 3 children. How do you go back and forth between that? So I'll tell you how I do it, and I'll also give you a few resources. For me, when I'm driving home, especially, I think Gammon, we shared a patient recently that I was very fond of.
It's Vincent.
So what do you do on those days? So we just had a gentleman recently, and I'm so appreciative of what you did. He had nobody. He left home when he was 13 years old. He worked in a carnival. He ran with motorcycle clubs. And at the end of his life, he had nobody. And truly, Gammon, you were his friend, you were his family member. When he died, he was the brother that I never wanted, but got anyway. Those things are hard, and they're supposed to be hard, right? Because death and dying is ugly business. It's hard. But you guys have to come up with ways of protecting yourself. So when Lee passed away, the chaplain from the high C called me. I was about to finish up my day anyway. So I put on the loudest, most obnoxious rock and roll music that I could find. I rolled the windows down in my car, I opened the sunroof, I sang and I yelled, and I got it all out of my system. I pulled in the garage. That's where it needs to stay for now. I need to intentionally do things that help me feel better, even when it feels guilty. So it might be, my secret vice is Dateline and NBC. Dateline. When the Dateline goes on and Mom's in the recliner, everybody knows, just give her an hour. Do something to mark that transition. Because if you stay in this mode 24 hours a day, and I am preaching to the choir here, you are going to burn out, you're going to get physically ill, you're going to be exhausted and emotionally spent. You're not going to be a good family member, spouse, parent, friend, all of those things you are. Because if you live 24 hours a day in death and dying, it will kill you. Now, when I take my lanyard off, does that mean I stopped loving Mr. Vincent? Nope. But I recognize I need to leave this and give my best self to the people around me. And that's another important boundary. When I get back in the car tomorrow, or whenever it is for you, I'm gonna give myself 5 minutes, 10 minutes to feel terrible, because let's face it, sometimes it feels good to feel terrible. And then I'm gonna do things that bring me life. So one of the things that I've learned in this work that I'd also like to share with you, you can't let every patient break your heart. You can't. And on those visits where you go in and you don't feel as connected and you don't have a story to tell friends and family, it's okay, right? They got what they needed, you showed up and you were present. You can't let every patient break your heart. But when you get to the point that none of them break your heart, it's time to take a break and take care of yourself. So for anyone who's done this, and some of y'all have done this a lot longer than I have, you know the people that when you walk in the door, you go, "Whew, this one's gonna be tough." And it's okay, right? You serve them, you love them, you give your best, and you brace yourself for what's coming, right? Because there is a finish line for every single one of us, but especially for our patients. We're not gonna fix it, we're just gonna be present. And when you have those people that move you, find something to care for yourself, right? So, Gamma, I'm just picking on you. Okay. You have Lee, and Lee tells you, man, I don't have any family. You're the closest thing I have to family. You recognize when he goes, it's gonna hurt bad. So you plan ahead for it, right? All right, I'm gonna be out of commission for a week or two. And then come up with something that helps you process it. So for everybody in this room, it's gonna be something different. For me, it's music and murder, unfortunately. I like moving my body, getting out in nature, walking, running. I also enjoy ice cream, so if anybody ever wants to meet at Uncle Steph's in Meade County, I'm there. But for each of you, you need to ask yourself, what is the thing that I do that makes me feel more alive? And when you have those patients that break your heart, do those things. And I wish I could tell you there's one thing that's gonna make everybody better, but it's gonna be different from all of you. There was a 20th century pastor and mystic named Howard Thurman. He grew up at the end of slavery. His parents were both slaves, and he wrote prolifically, and he was one of the voices of civil resistance in the 1960s. Most people don't know Howard Thurman, but you know his students like Martin Luther King and all of the leaders of the marches. Howard Thurman stayed back in his academic world, and he wrote things that were so beautiful that inspired revolution in the world. Howard Thurman said this: what the world needs from you now is not what you expect. You need to examine your heart and find the things that make you come alive. For what the world needs now is not more people quoting dogma. The world needs people who have come alive. So what hospice and hospice need now is not exactly, we do need your hours of volunteer, right? But that's not what we need. We don't need you to walk dogs if you hate dogs. We don't need you to sew care blankets if you hate to sew. What I invite you all and challenge you all to do today is this. In this work with dying and death and these folks, what are the things that make you come alive? And I'll tell you, you might feel guilty when you think of that because our patients are dying. What are the interactions that you walk away from and go, oh, I can do that all day, every day? What hospice needs from you is not a set certain number of visits or kinds of visits. Hospice needs you to find the things that make you come alive so that you come back and do those things with our patients and families. What you do is sacred and extraordinary work. It will teach you things that you didn't know that you could learn and things that you never wanted to be taught. You don't have to have the answers. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be unshakable and unwavering in your emotional depth. You need enough awareness to stay grounded and seek support. When you have those moments that break your heart, you need to acknowledge them and find a ritual or routine of your own. So some of the ones that I've read about online, in healthcare, we do a lot of hand washing. Sometimes after I've attended a death, I'll wash my hands, right? Symbolically, this is what happened and this is how I move on. One thing that I've read some people do, if you have a patient or family that's very special and they were into gardening or music, or buy an ornament and put on your Christmas tree that reminds you of them. Plant a flower in your garden that reminds you of them. The goal of this is not to be unfeeling. The goal of it is to realize this is hard work. Let me say it again. This is hard work. You don't have to make excuses and pretend like it's not hard, because it really is. You don't need to cheer your friends and family up when you say I'm a hospice volunteer and they go, oh! You can just sit with it and say, yeah, this is really hard. But I know what makes me come alive. I know why I do this job. I have good boundaries with other people and even boundaries for myself, right? I know I want to come over and fix you dinner, even though you don't want my cooking, but it's not the thing to do. We show up. We show up. So, final question. What's the most important thing you do as a volunteer?
Show up.
You show up. A staggering number of our patients have no one that will show up and look them in the eyes and say, Joe, I'm glad to see you today. They don't have family, or their family's afraid. And the most important thing that I will do in all of my visits is walk in the door and say, hey, I'm Val, I'm here. Nobody's gonna remember the prayer I prayed, nobody's gonna remember anything, but they'll remember somebody showed up, and that felt really good. So as we close, I'm gonna invite you to do the same thing we did to open. Close your eyes, just feel your body. Note any places where you're holding tension, any feelings you might have. Just notice them and let them go. Notice it and let it go. Wiggle your toes. Jiggle your legs. Wiggle your fingers. Open your eyes and say this: I showed up.
I showed up,
And that's all I need to do.
and that's all I need to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.